How can I get my prayers answered? I feel I'm losing my children. What can I do? Am I really doing my best to get to Jannah?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على نبيه ومصطفى سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. Brothers and sisters, welcome to a new Q&A session with E-Jaazah.com. And now, without any further ado, let's go to the very first question of this edition.
I followed a sheikh that all of the brothers said was trustworthy. I used to listen to his lectures and go to his classes when he was in town. However, those same brothers who initially referred me to him now say that he is no longer a trustworthy sheikh and he was really a wolf in sheep's clothing trying to trick us. I feel that my faith is really affected now, as I no longer know who to trust. Please help me.
Well, I would like to present the statement of Al-Imam Malik, may Allah have mercy on him, as he stood right in front of the grave of the Prophet ﷺ in Al-Madinah. And he remarked, saying, كل إنسان يؤخذ منه ويرد عليه إلا صاحب هذا المقام. He said, every man's statement is subject to be right or wrong. Every insan, you may take his opinion or leave it. His opinion could be right, could be wrong, except for only one person. Then he pointed to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ is already dead. So no one after the Prophet ﷺ should consider himself, or people should consider that all his opinions are the ultimate truth. We're human beings, we're subject to error. And the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, إذا اجتهد الحاكم فأصاب له أجران وإذا اجتهد فأخطأ له أجر. And that means if the judge, the ruler, the scholar made ijtihad, exerted the maximum effort based on the available references and the circumstances and concluded a hukm, if this hukm coincides with the truth which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires, he receives double reward. The reward of aiming right and reaching the right conclusion and making the effort. So making an effort by itself is rewarded for. What if he made ijtihad and he did not reach the right conclusion? He passed an opinion. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ. He will still get rewarded, but only for one thing, which is for making the effort. When we say there is a scholar, it doesn't mean that the scholar is free from sins or infallible. That's not true. So if we're going to judge every person according to 1 or 2 or 10 deeds, they say in Arabic, how excellent is the person whom you only can count his mistakes or drawbacks. Because we're full of drawbacks and mistakes. So if the mistakes are countable, that means the person is really good, because his good things and merits are much greater than what you can count, which is the mistakes and the faults. But there are some mistakes are not to be tolerated in the deen. With regards to the aqidah, for instance, with regards to getting involved in major sins or preaching something and doing the opposite thing, With regards to being an agent to the enemies of Islam, there are some people who are like that. So we have to be very cautious. If the scholar made an error, if the local imam made a mistake, or his opinion, you believe that it was not the right opinion, that's not the end of the world. He still have plenty of knowledge that we can benefit from, especially if he is qualified and knowledgeable. But for some people who disagree with the imam, and overnight they turn against him, we've seen this a lot, simply due to lack of etiquette. The etiquette of tarbiyah, the adab of talibul ilm, the adab and the etiquette of seeking knowledge. Some people simply, upon reading a book or two, or memorizing even the entire Quran, they start competing with the scholars. I'm not talking about the local scholars, talking about big-time scholars, global scholars. And they say, well, my opinion is different than his opinion. Based on what? Based on a book or two that they have read. We have to be very fair. The true seekers of knowledge appreciate the scholars, appreciate what they are doing for the ummah, and they try to conceal what they see of their errors, if it is something that does not nullify the aqidah and the tawheed. But if the man is a man of bid'ah that leads to kufr, we need to explain this to people. But the sequence will be as follows. Number one, we discuss with the imam or with the scholar, whom we figured out all of a sudden that after he was a great man, now he is an evil person. This is what you say. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. So we verify that and we discuss it. When we know that Allah does not allow us to kill the murtad until we discuss with him and argue with him and remove the misconceptions. What about a scholar? People who judge him, no, do not listen to him anymore. He is a kafir, or he is a rebellious, or his aqidah is corrupt. Did you hear from him? No, but the brothers say it so. That's not fair. That's not enough. Or otherwise, every person has an issue with an imam is going to spread misconceptions and rumors about him, and will end up having doubts in each other, hating and disliking each other. What an awful community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this regard in Surah Al-Hujurat, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. If a rebellious man comes to you with news, bad news about another party or individual, before passing a judgment, you need to verify that, lest you may hurt, you may even kill some people out of ignorance, and eventually you will regret what you've done. This ayah was revealed when one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ was sent and deployed by the Prophet ﷺ to collect the zakah from a tribe. They went out to receive him. He thought that they're going after him to kill him. So he retreated, he ran away, and he went to the Prophet ﷺ saying, Ya Rasulullah, these guys have converted and they rejected faith and they came out to kill me. And Nabi ﷺ sent Khalid ibn Walid on an expedition, but he ordered him, before initiating a fight or trying to discipline them, verify the news, find out if they have converted or not. So Khalid ibn Walid camped on the border of their city, and when it was the adhan time, they called the adhan and they established the jama'ah, and only by the grace of Allah, when he verified first, he saved a lot of blood which was about to be shed. Muslims killing Muslims simply because of a false news by one person. When somebody comes to us and says, the Shaykh is an agent, the Shaykh is working for the FBI or the intelligence, or the Shaykh is, oh, this Shaykh is a kafir, or this Shaykh is a fasiq, or this Shaykh. There are a lot of reasons. I will give you one reason. You know, the imams or the scholars are involved day and night, amongst their many activities, in marriage counseling. And in marriage counseling, when you sit with the couple and try to reconcile, or at least to judge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it may reach up to divorce or separation, and the judge have this authority. So when he recognizes that the husband is an oppressor, or the wife is not a right woman, or whatever, and he judges for one party against the other, guess what happened? The other party is not happy, so they start spreading misconceptions and rumors about this person. He is this and this and that. This is just one of the things. So it's a matter of deen. We don't want to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be asked and blameworthy about things which we may have said it once and did not recognize nor realize how much damage it have caused. Once again, I would like to remind what I said in the beginning. No one is infallible after Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There are some scholars who are just scholars by the name, but we have to verify before we pass a judgment. Wallahu alam. Next question.
Is it true that the dead bodies of pious personalities in their graves will remain intact, not decayed or perished?
In the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن أرواح الشهداء في حواصل طيور خضر تسرح في الجنة. The souls of the martyrs are deposited inside birds, or in the stomach of birds, green birds, flying and wandering in paradise. So the souls of those righteous people after they expire are in heaven, while the bodies are intact and buried under the ground, or in the battlefield, or perhaps in the bottom of the sea, or in the stomach of the fish or the whale. It depends. The Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith with regards to the bodies of the prophets and shuhada who were buried under the ground. With regards to the prophets first, he said, send the peace and the blessings upon me, since every time you send salutation upon me, Allah will render the soul back to me, so that I will reply to the person or to the persons who are saluting me. The companion said, Ya Rasulullah, and how would you do that? وَقَدْ بَلِيت وَقَدْ أَرِمْت, and your body will be decomposed and decayed after years. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam remarked, saying, إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ أَن تَأْكُلَ أَجْسَادَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. Allah had prohibited and banned the earth from decomposing, devouring or decaying the bodies of the prophets. Some of the shuhada during the battle of Uhud who were buried when there was rainfall and there was a flood, it exposed their bodies years later and they were intact. When the Muslims entered Persia and conquered Persia, there was a village or a city by the name Sur. They found the grave of Prophet Daniel. He is one of the prophets of Bani Israel. The Persians kept his body so that whenever there is a drought, they would take his body out and seek the rain through him and so on. So Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ardahu, who was the Khalifa at the time, ordered Abu Musa al-Ash'ari to dig various graves and then bury him in one of them and cover up all the different graves in order to conceal which grave is his, because we are not attached to the dead. And whenever we ask, we only ask from the only live and the eternal living, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Prophet Daniel was one of the prophets of Bani Israel between Prophet Zachary and David and Zachary. So it's been thousands of years and their bodies were still intact. هذا والله أعلم. Next question, please.
How can I get my prayers answered? I feel I'm losing my children. What can I do? Am I really doing my best to get to Jannah? I am the only Muslim in my private school. My parents sent me there because I received a full scholarship by the grace of Allah. Sometimes I find it hard to go to school where I am the only Muslim. I feel a great disconnect. Whenever we discuss issues like the protests in the Middle East, I'm always the person that doesn't agree with their overall opinion. Sometimes my peers make fun of me or continue to say things that make me feel uncomfortable. What can I do about this?
I'm entirely against sending my son to a private non-Islamic school or non-Islamic school at all, whether in a Muslim country or abroad. Why? Because of the peer pressure. We overestimate the capacity and the ability of the child, but the pressure is tremendous. The pressure is from the students, from the peer, from the principal, from the school, from the entire environment. Why do we put our children under such pressure? For worldly reasons. It is the priorities. We give priority and precedence to the dunya, to the degree, while we all know in the grave the malak, the angel, will ask the person about 3 questions. None of them is, how much money did you have? Where did your house located? Where were your house located at? And what kind of degree did you earn? I'm not belittling any of that. Of course, we're required and encouraged to get a higher degree, excel in science, in different fields of worldly knowledges, try to be rich to assist the poor, to live in nice neighborhoods, but not on account of the deen. Not to the extent that we jeopardize our faith. We may think that, no, my faith is strong, alhamdulillah, I know where I'm standing, but not your son, not your daughter. And I'm saying this out of experience, because I have seen tens of cases where the parents were very religious, insisted because they were wealthy on putting their children, not necessarily because of the scholarship, in private schools, in Catholic schools, send them abroad to get a higher education, and it was only 2 years, maximum 3 years, and they lost their children for good. Some of them are originally living in the West, in North America, and some parents are wealthy parents living in the Gulf, living in Saudi, in Kuwait, in Qatar, and they send their kids, they can afford to send their kids to the West. And what do they get afterward? They end up crying to the rest of their lives. And wallahi, I'm saying what I know for sure, it happened and it is happening. And it will continue to happen if the person does not take precaution. What happens normally when you expose your hand or your finger to the flame? You get burned. I know that somebody will say, but you know, this family sent their son and he's fine and he's religious. Fine. In Arabic we say, الشاذ لا يقاس عليه. These are odd cases. But the normal condition is that when you dip your finger in ink, it comes out with the same color of the ink. It doesn't come out colorless or the same, because the environment, you put your son or daughter in such environment, what do you expect? You expect them to be moist. You expect them to gain and develop same ideologies. Please, you need to make sure that you will leave behind a righteous child who will pray for you after your death, not that you will be blameworthy and asked about what did you do to ruin him and make him a disbeliever. A righteous child who will pray for you is a continuous charity. Wallahu a'lam.
My friend is 19 years old and she keeps having nightmares. She sweats a lot and she gets rashes but doesn't know how she got them. She always sees black cats in her dream, and her mother had a dream recently that my friend changed to a black dog. What do you think she should do? Do you think someone should perform ruqyah on her?
Well, whether I think somebody should perform or recite ruqyah on her, definitely. And ruqyah not only for major things, but also for minor things, in any condition. Even if she is a psychiatric patient, even if she's having or if he's having some psychological or psychiatric problems, in addition to visiting a psychiatric, so that you seek the treatment on parallel tracks. If it is an evil eye or a magical spell that has been cast on that person, And the ruqya would definitely help in removing this condition. And also, prior to going to sleep, the following measures have to be followed exactly. Number one, perform wudu. Make sure you pray your nawafil after the fard and witr before you sleep, unless you have a habit of getting up to pray tahajjud. When you go to sleep, when you go to your bed, you sleep in a state of tahara, you have wudu. Even if the person is having a major impurity, still it's recommended to perform wudu. So if a woman during her menses, or a couple after having a sexual relation, and they are due to take ghusl, it is also recommended to perform wudu in order to go to sleep. And before you go to sleep, with a towel or something, and clean up your bed. Clean up your bed before you lie down on the bed. You lie down on your right side and you recite the 3 mu'awwidhat. قل هو الله أحد, قل أعوذ برب الفلق, and قل أعوذ برب الناس. 3 sets. Each set after you recite it, you blow twice like that exactly. Then you wipe over your face and head, and you go down your chest, belly, and as far as you can reach with your hands over your body. You do that 3 times. Then when you sleep, do not forget to recite Ayatul Kursi and the last verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون, to the end. Inshallah, if it is a matter of being possessed by jinn or a magical spell or an evil eye, these procedures inshallah shall take care of it. And when you see a nightmare or something bad that disturbs your sleep, simply turn to the other side, flip to the other side, and blow twice, as I just explained, and say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. If none of that works, perhaps you need to visit the psychiatrist, because there could be some mental disorders, and this is something that we have no control over, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam ordered us to seek remedy if it is prescribed. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. I also would like to remember to include you in my dua, and that the person who's experiencing these conditions. Shafakum Allahu wa afakum.
My parents are divorced, and I lived in country A with my mom. I moved to country B to live with my dad, and am attending university there. However, in my culture, family ties are very important, and I am demanded and expected to visit country A twice a year. None of the mahrams I have will escort me. I have read some fatwa that reverts can travel without a mahram in real necessity, but visiting my mom isn't a necessity. Even if I tell my mom I'm not visiting, she would be traveling without a mahram. How big of a sin is traveling without a mahram?
I'm glad you're already aware that in Islam it is not permissible for a woman to travel a travel distance alone without a male mahram of her or her husband. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِلَّا مَا اضْطُرِرْتُمْ إِلَيْهِ, except in cases of necessity. And necessities will be determined based on the conditions. So, I believe if you present your case before your dad and show him that you're very keen to observe the Islamic ruling in this regard, he would applaud that and he will escort you. Visiting your mom too is very, very important. It is on top of the duties of upholding the ties of kinship. And it comes next to the command of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and in His oneness. So if you can combine between all of that and make sure that your dad will escort you, that's perfectly fine. If you're forced to travel, then at least make sure that your dad or your mahram will escort you to the airport, and you'll have somebody else to pick you up from the other airport without a transit in between. And this is the least you can do. And it doesn't mean I'm saying that it is halal to travel alone without a mahram. But I'm saying it is only halal in cases of darura. والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم.
I'm a sister who was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. However, about 6 months ago, I was sent to a university in a non-Muslim country to study medicine. I am forced to travel and live without a mahram, and there is no adhan. I do not want to continue medicine as the university is mixed, and I want to study deen here in Saudi Arabia. I brought this issue to my parents, and they refuse to listen. They don't give prominence to Islamic studies. They tell me to study Islam after medicine. Time is short, and I don't want to waste it pursuing the dunya. What should I do?
Well, of course, studying medicine is a top priority, is very, very important, whether for men or women. We need female gynecologists and obstetric doctors, pediatricians, etc. But not on account of the deen. Sending my daughter alone to study in a mixed school in a non-Muslim country is a great danger that any person with a common sense, not just Islamic education, with a common sense should realize and recognize it is dangerous and learn from others' faults instead of being a lesson for others to learn from. I do not find this a valid excuse for you to travel alone or stay in such school by yourself. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. I guess that we cover like 3 questions which are similar to each other in a sense of traveling without a mahram or staying alone in a non-Muslim society or studying in a mixed community. These are basic Islamic educations. When people give up on them, they end up paying the price. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to practice His deen and to adhere to His Quran and the Sunnah of His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and recognize our priorities in this life. Brothers and sisters, by that we come to the end of today's session. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.